Hi everyone, Lior is here with another Jumpstart Lightning episode. Today I have Kato with me to talk to me about KQL queries in Azure Arc. Play the music. Hi everyone, Lior is here with another Jumpstart Lightning episode, and today I'm thrilled to have Kato with me. Kato, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Well, Kato, you and I, we've been chatting for a while, and we wanted to talk about this topic of KQL queries and Azure Arc. But before diving in, who you are and what is it that you do?
Yeah, my name is Kaido and Lior. I'm a Microsoft MVP in Microsoft Azure Security, and also this year hybrid cloud as well. So, and I've been Microsoft MVP past 12 years.
12 years, like that's impressive. I came to learn the MVP community, Kato, when I started with Microsoft about 7 years ago. And recently, as you know, you've been part of the program for the MVPs for everything that we do with Azure Hybrid Cloud, and you've been part of this. And I saw some of the blog posts, and I reached out, and I wanted to talk to you about all the cool things that you're doing with KQL and Azure Arc, and I saw some of the funky stuff. Before I'm just kind of talking to you about all the technical things here, talk to me for a second about the MVP and what does that mean for you as an individual? What does that mean in terms of your day-to-day? Can you talk to me about that?
For me, it's about knowledge sharing. And in Estonia, for example, we have our own community as well, and we are running monthly or quarterly basis different webinars these days because of the COVID. Last year we had a pretty big Microsoft Security Summit, and for me it's important to share my know-how, what I have experienced myself during different projects, and hopefully others can also learn from it.
So, Kato, I'm sure that if I would be part of this MVP community in terms of being one, I'm sure that I would meet a lot more friends. Obviously, as someone that is working a lot with the community, I came to learn awesome people like yourself, and I'm happy that you're part of the MVP program. So, Kato, I wanna talk to you about you started writing some blog posts around KQL queries, and then you connected that to Azure Arc. And I wanted to talk to you before we dive into the demo that you have for me today. What was the motivation on creating this? Like, why?
These days, we are doing a lot of Azure Arc for Service projects. And if you're setting up the infrastructure, then for me, it's really important that we have a visibility to see how many healthy nodes do we have issues, what the administrators are doing, and we can use the same queries also in our Azure workbooks. So it makes it easier for us to delegate different workbooks, different views for different parties in your organization. So the visibility is key in that sense. And secondly, we can also build different automation flows around onboarding, offboarding, and then so on. So we don't want to do things manually.
And because those Azure Arc-enabled servers are part of ARM, right? Azure Resource Manager, you have a resource graph, and those KQL queries are available to you. So that's cool. I think that the best thing for us to do, Kato, is to dive right into the demo, right? So I know that you came with the demo. Talk to me about that. What do you want to see today?
So in this query, and the reason why I built this one is that if the node is connected to Azure Arc, then you can also execute custom PowerShell scripts on your nodes. And with this query, I can see that Kaido executed a PowerShell script on SRV01K machine, and you can filter out based on the extension name, the date times, the administrators, and so on. So you can build up different alerts based on that as well. So, and just to point out that to get the data to Microsoft Sentinel, you need to enable the Azure Activity Connector, and you need to deploy the Azure policy to that subscription. If you have multiple subscriptions, then of course you need to include these as well.
So let's take a step back for a second and understand, like, I'm trying to understand like the real motivation on why doing this. Obviously, Kato, Azure Arc, and specifically Azure Arc-enabled servers involves a lot around these areas of security, compliance, and governance, all that jazz. Those KQL queries, if I understand correctly, you're using those as kind of a jelloing mechanism, something to use in terms of, okay, so I'm going to use a specific KQL query so I can do some remediation after that. Is that correct?
I can do remediation, or I can create, for example, incidents in Sentinel if I see that something doesn't match with previous patterns and logs or history. So, so there are different things for me in that sense.
Okay, let's see some of those queries in action. Show me what we can see.
So, so that's the first one, and in this case, all the data or all the queries that I'm using are coming from the Azure activity table, and the environment is already configured in that sense. And as you see from these results, you see that today I executed 3 different scripts on my SRV01 server. And you can also filter out, for example, and you can say that that the extension can be, for example, only the, let's say it needs to be a custom script extension. So you can filter out based on the extension name, the date times, and then so on. So,
okay, that's cool. So this is one use case. What are the more what are the other things what are the other things that you're seeing customers maybe asking for? Things that you can do with those queries, or additional things that you can do with those queries?
So for example, the second use case is that if on top of Azure Arc, you can also enable Update Management Center.
Right.
And in this second query, I can identify all the failed update deployments. Let me take, for example, last 7 days, and I can see that on my Azure hybrid worker, I have some issues, so the updates are not installing. And and I can alert the administrator to point out that we have something wrong on this machine.
Okay, so using queries in order to understand update status and patch status, basically. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and the other thing, for example, is that to identify all the new nodes that are just onboarded. Let's say like last 30 days. So you see in your queries, you can specify the time range as well. So let's say last 30 days, how many registrations? And you can also build up, you can take the data and you can use, for example, logic apps or Azure automation to build automation around. So you can add additional checks or configurations or notifications that you have a new registration, and what are the activities that you should carry out. Maybe you want to add a specific patching tag or to carry out other activities.
So basically, Kato, we're talking about, when you're saying registration, you're talking about new onboarded Azure Arc-enabled servers into the platform.
Okay. Yes, correct.
Very cool. All right. So you showed me the update management. You showed me just kind of the intervals with the with the time generated. Are there any specific KQL queries that you can use in order to understand if someone is doing anything that is malicious on the server?
This one goes back to basically the first one around the extension installations, because especially the custom script extensions. But the other thing which is important to point out is maybe if somebody, for example, removed the Azure Arc object from the Azure portal.
Okay.
And if you delete the object from Azure portal, you will lose all the data as well.
Okay, so that is important. So basically, we're talking about the situation someone is deleting the Azure Arc resource object.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And you wanna basically query against that. What about if someone is removing an extension?
We can also identify this one as well. And I built a query, for example, to identify the Azure Monitoring Agent, because the Azure Monitoring Agent is the new agent that allows to collect logs, for example, the security logs from the machines. And that's especially important to identify and see if somebody removed the Azure Monitoring Agent extension. And depending on the Azure Arc implementation, you may see different names for the Azure monitoring agents. So for example, in this case, you see I have the Azure monitoring agent Windows and Azure monitor Windows agents. So make sure to check your environment and see which ones do you need to use or not.
Super cool. I mean, this is a kind of an interesting thing, because when you're Arc-enabled, and you know this as much as I do, Kato, right? When you're Arc-enabling a server, resource graph is something that is built into the platform. I mean, you don't this is something that you can do with no extra charge, right? I mean, you can do KQL queries, you can do resource graph right off the bat. Obviously, the extensions and everything that is added into the servers cost money, but those queries are super powerful.
Yeah, and especially if you're starting to visualize the data through Azure workbooks, and you can make nice workbooks for different parties in your organization. Yeah. So, yeah.
And we're also using some of the workbooks to shameless plug, some of the workbooks that you've been working on when it comes to Azure monitoring. We are actually starting to work on that in the Jumpstart and leverage those to see what we can do with that. So awesome to see that you're making more progress on that. So Kato, thank you so much for the demo. You also documented all these things in your blog, right?
Yeah, all the queries are posted on my website, and it's kaido.com or website, and you can download all of them from my website. And I have also GitHub account as well with the workbooks, queries, and everything. So.
And obviously, we're going to link everything in the description below so you can check it out. Kato, I wanted to say thank you so much for coming and being a guest on Jumpstart Lightning. For the Jumpstart viewers, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for continuing supporting us. Let me know in the comments if this is something that you feel that you're going to use. Do you see the value in all these KQL queries? Love to hear more from you in the comments down below. Again, thank you, Kato, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. Make sure to like and subscribe, making sure that you're following this channel, because we're coming up with more and more videos coming from the communities and other people that are joining us. So, Kato, thank you so much. And for the Jumpstart viewers, we're going to see you next time.